Hey, how's it going, everybody? I am really excited to sit here and talk about The Northman. It's a movie that I unfortunately missed out on its opening weekend, but it looks like I'm not the only one because it didn't do too well its opening weekend. But it looks like word of mouth is kind of starting to spread. It's starting to make more money, so I hope it can have a pretty good second weekend here. I hope to contribute to that. So let's talk about The Northman. So I saw this movie at the Dolby Theater, and I'm sitting there just before the movie starts. I'm reclining my seat, got my popcorn on my lap, and the movie starts, and it starts with this beautiful shot of a volcano, and it looks like this like a painting has just come to life. And I knew right from the get go that I was gonna like this movie basically based on just that one shot. And the story itself in this movie pretty simple. You got a little boy who watches his uncle come to the village, kill his father, and then kidnap his mom. And then we fast forward years into the future where the little boy Amleth is now grown up. Amleth is played by Alexander Skarsgard, who does an absolutely great job in this movie. And he needs to go and avenge his father and take back his mom. And Anya Taylor Joy is also in this movie for a lot more. I thought Anya Taylor Joy was going to be more of like a not too much in this movie. Based off the trailers, it seemed like she was going to be much more of a side character than she actually is in this movie. So I was happy to see that she was in this movie because Anya Taylor Joy is just all over the place these days. It's like Florence Pugh. Her and Florence Pugh are like battling of who could do more movies in a year. It seems like. So Alexander Skarsgård is great, and that dude is absolutely huge. All right, the way they film this movie and just how jacked he is, he just like looks like he's towering over everybody. It's like a I would almost compare it to the way like in the Rob Zombie Halloween movies, how like Michael Myers just looked like this big beast compared to like everybody else in the movie. But the cast is absolutely great in this movie. Like I said, Alexander Skarsgård, Anya Taylor Joy, Nicole Kidman, who plays mom, is great. Ethan Hawke, who's not in the movie for long, but he plays Amleth's dad. He's also really great as well. And Claes Bangs, who plays the uncle, was really awesome in this movie. And every time Alexander Skarsgård and Claes Bangs were on the screen together, you knew that something special was going on. The tension that they had between each other, you just knew that after a while, that tension as it keep wrapping up, you just knew that eventually the climax was going to come and it was just going to pop off. And boy, does it pop off! The action in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. The trailer shows a lot of cool action, but the trailer does not show all of it. There's a lot of action you're going to see in this movie that's not spoiled by the trailer at all, and the cinematography and the way the action is shot is brilliant. You're not getting these quick cuts where you can't see what's going on. You're getting these long one-shot takes. You're seeing Amleth going through and using swords on people, and it's not using 10 different angles to show what's going on. You get it in one shot, and so it's nice when you see action movies. Although I wouldn't really just call this like a straight action movie, but it's nice when you can actually see action in a movie and you can see what's going on. And that's what I really appreciate about this movie. That's what I appreciate a lot about Robert Eggers as a director, and that's what I appreciate about the cinematography in this movie is you can see what's going on. The fact of how many times when this movie has the dark scenes when it's taking place at nighttime, and the moon in the sky is basically lighting up the whole scene. It's great. And even though this movie takes a big portion of it is like taking place in Iceland and it's kind of like this big open area, it's got this really claustrophobic feeling to it. And I haven't really felt that way with a movie since I watched Midsummer because Midsummer, I mean, most of that movie takes place in the daytime, but even though they're on like this big open village in Sweden, there's also that claustrophobic feeling to that. And I think the fact that Robert Eggers was able to create a claustrophobic feeling when there's a lot of outdoor scenes in this and you're not actually like in an enclosed area is a kudos to him as a director and the kudos to the cinematographer of this movie. It was absolutely great, and there's lots of blood. So you're gonna because I've actually heard I want to talk about that actually for a second because I've heard some people say they don't think it's bloody enough. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but there is a lot of blood in this movie. I don't know how much more blood you could possibly want. So if you're squeamish of blood, then I don't know if you should see this movie at all. But if you don't mind blood, and if you're going in to see a Viking movie and you want to see lots of blood, you're going to get it with this movie. And circling back to what I said about the characters in the story earlier, this movie has a lot of emotion, both with the story and I feel like just with the filmmakers that made this movie, because you can almost feel the love that was put into this movie radiating off the screen. And this is what I mean by that. I talked about the opening shot and how beautiful that volcano shot is. There's so many other shots in this movie that are like that, and they're not just like random shots that don't like push the story forward. It's they all push the story forward, and that's what I really enjoyed about this movie is there's some movies out there where they try to get artsy fartsy and they're kind of artsy fartsy for no reason other than just be like, hey, look how good our cinematographer is, or look I drew this picture and I wanted to have it in the movie. This movie doesn't do that. Everything that you see in this movie, there is a point to be seeing it, and there's so many just beautiful shots, and a lot of the beautiful moments come in times where it's coming in a moment that's not so beautiful, like a character's at its worst, at their worst, and then all of a sudden there's like this beautiful moment that pops up, and then you almost forget about the fact that they're at their worst, and then it comes back, and then you're sad that that beautiful moment is now over. So there's a lot of emotion in this movie. You could tell that the filmmakers and Robert Eggers poured a lot of emotion into this movie, and it really shows. Now, there's only one complaint I have about this movie, and it's a complaint I feel like I've been saying about a lot of movies recently, but it seems to be the trend so far in 2022. It's a little long. I know 2 hours and 17 minutes isn't like really long for a movie, but I feel like this movie could have benefited if it maybe could have been anywhere from like 2 hours and 5 minutes to maybe just a straight 2 hours. It could have maybe made everything just a bit more tighter. But other than that, that's my only complaint. Everything else about this movie I think is absolutely great, and I'm glad to see that word of mouth is kind of starting to spread because I think this movie opened at like number 4 last weekend, and word of mouth is starting to spread. It was number 1 this past Monday, so I'm hoping that with my review and everybody else's review and kind of word of mouth, we can kind of get more people to see this movie because this is a movie I feel like you need to see in a theater. I'll probably definitely buy this movie, add it to my collection back here when it comes out to own. But I just can't imagine it looking as good on my television and sounding as good on my speakers as it looked on the big screen, especially in a Dolby theater. So I definitely recommend seeing The Northman. Definitely recommend seeing it in theaters. I promise, especially if you're looking forward to it, you will not be disappointed. And anyway, if any of you have seen The Northman, let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section down below. And like always, I hope to see you back in my next review.